Hey Laura, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I know we've connected a little bit online, but you've got a really good story to share. So where would you like to start?
Oh, that's a big question. I guess I'll start by giving you a little bit of background as to how I got to where I am now. So where I am now is I've had a marketing consulting business for 9 years, and I've recently released a book called Good to Grow to support other entrepreneurs on their journey around creating the mindset and habits to thrive. So the backstory of how I got here is that I spent most of my career in professional services. So I did marketing, but for accounting and law firms. And I spent many years doing that. And then I had 2 children along the way. And like many women in that time with young children and a commute every day into the office, I was struggling. And I had this feeling inside of me for a long time, like there was something more for me, but I didn't know what it was. I toyed with the idea of going out on my own to start a business. I've always been fascinated by business owners, entrepreneurs. I love that, the story of those. And I I really started to think about it more after I went back to work after my second child. And I was starting to feel like I wanted to be doing something that was really making an impact or a difference. I didn't want to just spend my days kind of going through the motions. And I was starting to be promoted in my job, which sounded great and looked great on the outside, but I was feeling more disconnected from what it is that I really like to do. I was managing and leading larger teams of people, but I wasn't in the marketing and kind of rolling my sleeves up and doing things, which is where I really excel and thrive. So I started to speak with leaders of private companies, because at the time I was doing marketing targeting private companies. And I was hearing from them when they heard that I did marketing, they'd say, "Oh, we kind of have a marketing person," or "Joe does that off the side of his desk." And it was becoming clear that they didn't have like a big picture strategy, and they didn't have somebody that had the experience to help guide them. So I started to think, oh, well, maybe there's something here. Maybe I could become an independent consultant and work with companies like this. But I was terrified. I didn't know anyone else who was an entrepreneur. I didn't have any role models in my life for what was possible. All my friends were in corporate. I just didn't know that there was this other world out there and that there was another way. And eventually a conversation led me to realizing that I was really out of alignment with the company and with my own values. It was more about me, not about what the company was offering. And I made the decision to leave. So I left without a solid plan. I thankfully am blessed with a partner, my husband, who had a second income to give me a little bit of leeway to figure it out. And I took the leap thinking that something is meant to be. I just felt like I couldn't stay where I was any longer. It was like this feeling had built up, and I finally had to make the change. And when I did, serendipity brought me into a conversation with someone that became my first client, which led to another client, which led to the unfolding of what is now my business today. So in reflecting on so much of what I've learned over the last 9 years, realizing that there's a lot of people not choosing to go back to their jobs after the pandemic, and they're starting to think about going out on their own, I was thinking, wow, I've learned so much, not about the nuts and bolts of starting a business, because there's lots of resources for that, but more about the internal experience you go through when you make that shift from being an employee to an entrepreneur, because it's a completely different world and you need to support your mindset and yourself in a different way. So that's why I wrote the book. That's kind of the journey I've been through and what I'm trying to share with other people to save them some time and tears along the way.
Yeah, amazing. I love all of that. There's so much that I can relate to, because I had a similar journey. I left my corporate, I was in corporate for 12, 13 years, and I left after having a similar kind of wake up, really. I'd gone back to work after having my youngest daughter. I'd been on maternity leave, and I realized that I wanted more, and it was okay to want more. That a
Right.
corporate life that I had, I loved it, but it was no longer me. I'd
Right.
kind of outgrown it in a different way. And so I left, starting my first business without a plan. Well, I had a kind of an inkling of a plan.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I had a seed of a plan, but I didn't have any clients or anything. And right slap bang in the middle of a recession as well.
Oof.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just kind of went for it. But very similar to you,
Same.
I was lucky that my husband had a proper job, what I call it. You know, he had a corporate position, and so he
Right.
was supporting us at that time. So I was really, really lucky in that sense. But I can completely relate to everything that you've said in terms of feeling terrified, you know, knowing that
Oh,
you've got no choice but to leap. You've got to grow because you've outgrown it. But what does it look like? So let's unpack that, because there must have been so much that you've been through in terms of understanding about your mindset. Did you go on any kind of mindset journey before then, or was this the
I
this
didn't.
of
I
it?
didn't. And it's in the last 3 years that I've really gone deep into understanding mindset. And I thankfully, right at the beginning of, right before the pandemic started, I had signed up for a group coaching program. So I studied Bob Proctor's materials in depth, and I didn't know that nobody knew the pandemic was coming. And it was the greatest gift I could have ever been given, because it gave me the tools to get through that and continue to grow and expand and all of the things. But looking back, I now understand some of the things that happened from a mindset perspective, knowing what I know now. So I didn't have a lot of the tools that I have now, which is also why I wanted to share that, thinking if somebody knew this at the beginning or understood this at the beginning, how much more helpful that would be for them.
Yeah, oh, it's so, so helpful. Taking that leap from corporate or any position to running your own business is like no other, is it? Because I always say that running your own business is the biggest personal development journey that you can ever go on. It throws everything at you, doesn't it? So
It does.
all your stuff comes out to play that you might not have even realized. All your demons, everything comes out to play. But it's also one of the most evolutionary things that you can go on. It's like real expansion there. So let's start to unpick some of this juicy stuff then, Laura. So
Sure.
you said that you were absolutely terrified. Did the terror come once you'd made the leap, or was it before, or when did you start to notice it and start to unpick it?
So it was probably about a year of feeling really like on the edge of making this decision, and just feeling like going into work every day, like my heart wasn't in it. Like I was forcing myself to find little pieces of things that really brought me joy. And for me, the real terror was in the build up to the decision. And because from the outside, it looks like you have this stable job, you have a good income, everyone's like, oh, this is amazing. You're being, groomed for the next level of promotion. So it doesn't make sense on the outside. And so for me, the real terror was before making the decision. And I felt a great sense of relief once I actually made the decision. And then I went into roller coasters of emotion. One minute I was like on top of the world thinking, I'm going to build this great empire. And the next minute I'm thinking, what have I done? I gave this up, and how am I going to do this? And I think that's a very natural thing for people to experience. Like you can actually experience it in your body, like your nervous system is been given a shock. And for me, I was really stressed out and really depleted when I left. And I decided to just give myself a little bit of time to sort of recharge and re-energize. And I focused on going for walks, going to yoga, doing little projects around the house. For that first few weeks, I was really just kind of re-energizing myself. And I actually believe that's what helped attract in the first opportunity that came to me, because I was focusing on getting myself into a place of feeling good. And knowing what I know now, I believe that attracted in this opportunity to me.
Right. So, and I completely agree. It's so interesting just listening to you speak and understanding the roller coaster. So how did you deal with the onset of that roller coaster? Because for me, I remember it happening, and so for my clients as well, it can often feel like a shock, because I'm doing really, really great, as you've described. I'm going to build an empire. Everything's great. I feel fantastic, and oh my God, what have I done? And I remember vividly when that happened to me. We went not long after I resigned. we went on a holiday, and I woke up every morning at 2 o'clock in the morning, kind of straight out of a nightmare, going, oh my God, what have I done? I've had this crazy dream that I've left my job. And my husband going, yeah, you have done that, but you're going to be okay. And that, just managing those emotions. I know you said you went for a walk and you kind of regrouped, but what else did you do? Was there anything that kind of brought you back to ground yourself in those dip moments?
Absolutely. So I remember one of the first days I sat down. So I had this opportunity with this client, and I was like, oh, well, now I have to create a business. Like, they want to hire me. I'm not even a business. What does that look like? So I sat down with an actual blank piece of paper at the kitchen table and started writing out all the things I'm going to need to do and figure out. And I got myself completely overwhelmed because I thought, this is so much. How can I do all this? I don't know how to do half of these things. And I remembered something that I'd been in a coaching. I had a business coach right before I left corporate. And I recognized when we were going through sort of a strength assessment, there was something that stood out for me, that I have the ability to figure things out. I've had many situations in my life where I had no idea where I'd do something, and I've always figured it out. Things that have been thrown at me outside of my own control, like my daughter being born prematurely, I figured it out. Like, I wouldn't have thought I'd known what to do, and I figured it out. And so I started looking for examples in my own life of where I had figured something out. So when I started to get overwhelmed, I did two things. One was, I just kept saying to myself, what's the one thing I need to do next? Like, I don't have to do all the things and figure all the things out. What do I need to do now? Like, what's the one thing I have to do next? And the second was that I just kept reminding myself over and over in my inside voice, I always figure it out. I always figure it out. And I did. And that really supported me at the beginning when the emotions were up and down, was looking for evidence in my own life and just continually reminding myself of that.
Yes, so good. Such a good tip, looking for evidence, because you're right. We always figure things out. Yeah, no matter what happens in our lives, we've handled it. And I mentioned this on a podcast not long ago, actually, about Susan Jeffers' book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I don't know whether you've ever read it. And she talks about, I'll handle it. You'll handle it no matter what happens. I'll handle it. And it's the same kind of premise, isn't it? I'm going to figure this out. And just looking, I love the fact that you looked for evidence in your own life, because you can't argue with that, can you? Right. Happened, you can't argue with that.
It's the truth. A lot of the times we make up all these stories in our minds, and they're not based in reality. They're fictional stories we're making up that are not necessarily supporting us. And if you force yourself to look for some evidence in your own life or in other people's experience too. So if you don't have the experience of starting a business, the experience of figuring this thing out, borrow that from someone else. You can look at someone else who's successfully done it and go, well, they did it and I can do it too. They're no different from me. I just haven't done it yet. Yeah. So that can be a supportive way to address it as well.
Such a good tip, borrow it from somebody else. And you can do that with so many things, if you've got somebody close, but even with confidence, you can borrow confidence from somebody else and go, right, okay, I might just be having a little bit of a self-doubt moment, but I know that somebody else has done it. I'm not putting, colonizing Mars. I'm not doing something we've never done before. We can do this. We can do this. So you mentioned that part of your grounding work was to go for a walk. And to shift your frequency and just shift your vibration. How did that ultimately work? And what were could you feel the shift in terms of your vibrations? And how did you build that into your actual day-to-day routine?
So again, I didn't realize it at the time, but I started walking just for fitness and exercise. And I started to realize that walking was something more for me. And I now realize it's a connection to nature, and it's almost like a moving meditation for me. So I walk, I walk every morning, almost every morning. I have beautiful trails around my neighborhood. I'm really, really fortunate. And most mornings I walk by myself. Sometimes I walk with a girlfriend. And when I walk by myself, I usually listen to a podcast, that like a short podcast, for a chunk of that time. And then I walk with nothing for the last portion of my walk. And I just take in what's around me. It sounds so simple, but it really shifts my vibration. It really uplifts me. This morning I was walking. We have the most beautiful fall leaves. There's trees with reds and brilliant oranges. And I was just looking at them thinking, man, I'm so lucky to live in this neighborhood where I can walk 5 minutes and be in this beautiful nature. And we live in a country that I'm able to do that. And I get to see all the seasons where we live, and I see this beauty. I really love fall. And just that little thought pattern had me come home and have a shower, and I just feel great sitting down to talk to you. So walking has become a very regular practice for me that I don't even think about. It's like brushing my teeth. I must get out and walk, even if it's for 10, 15 minutes. It's usually about maybe half an hour, 40 minutes I go. But if I could just get a short one, just that little bit of time makes a huge difference for me.
I'm exactly the same, Laura, exactly the same. I have always had dogs for this reason, do you have dogs? Or
I have a dog, but I don't take him with me because he's terrible in a leash.
Right.
It's not a calm Zen practice walking
that.
with him, so he gets walked at other times.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
But it's my non-negotiable. Every single day I need to get out, and you're absolutely right. There's something about being in nature. If that's your thing, for some people it's you need to be near the ocean. For some people it's mountains. Some people it's flowing water. Find your thing, right? It sounds like we've got the same thing where we just need to be outside in nature and make it a non-negotiable, because just like you, it totally changes my vibration too. And sometimes you can go out and you might not be feeling it. You're having one of those dip moments.
Right.
By the time you come back, it's just incredible, the shift. So, and you mentioned, and I'd love to explore this, you said that knowing now what knowing this about being outside and changing that vibration, you were able to attract things a little bit more easily into your business. Tell me more about that.
So when I left my job, as I said, I was focusing on recharging and feeling good. And I received a phone call out of the blue from a former partner at the accounting firm that I used to work at. And he had left as well. And he was out on his own as a strategy consultant. And he said, I have this client I'm working with, and they need some help with marketing. I think you'd be a great fit for them. And I was like, what is the business? And he said, well, they're a steel construction company. And I was like, what do I know about steel construction? And I'm not even a business yet, and I'm not ready. And I haven't figured out my whole plan of what my business is going to be and what my and he's like, just have lunch with them. And I really resisted at first. I was like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And then I thought, okay, maybe I should just see where it goes. So I agreed to have lunch with the president of the company. And I went in and was very transparent about where I was at and what I thought I might be able to do to help companies. And I remember going into that conversation feeling like I had to prove myself as a marketing expert. And about halfway through the conversation, I started just asking him questions about his business and realizing that he had some challenges that he needed addressing. And something flipped, and I was like, oh, it's not about me proving that I'm an expert. He wants to know how I can help him in his business. It sounds so simple, but as a new business owner, you almost get a little, it's an insecurity about feeling like you have the expertise and wanting to talk about that or prove that. And when I flipped it, and it was like, oh, I'm just naturally asking him questions about his business and making suggestions and offering advice based on what I know. And the conversation flipped. And at the end of it, he said, well, you need to start with someone, so it might as well be us. So send me a proposal. And that led to me going, how do I make a business? And it kind of kickstarted me into the development of the business. And I'm so grateful, number one, that I followed the breadcrumb, because I 100% believe now that was a synchronicity, that I was meant to have that conversation with him that opportunity led to other opportunities and related businesses. And it really sparked the beginning of my business. And had I not been open to that conversation, had I not trusted in my own self enough to just openly have the conversation, I don't know where I would have been led. So I think that's the takeaway for me, is understanding when I'm feeling good and I'm open, and those little nudges or those little opportunities come along, I follow them, even if they don't make sense to me, especially if they don't make sense almost, because I'm like, I'm just curious now. That's how I operate. So a little thing will come up and I'm like, oh, wonder what that's about. And I will be open and follow it. And it often leads me to something that is meant to be.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? Because isn't it funny how we don't need to know the how. We don't need to know where it's going. We don't need to know all the details. And I find that so liberating. The time I've spent, Laura, trying to figure out the how, especially in the early days.
100%.
I needed to plan the hell out of things. For what reason? And often now I talk about just take that first step. And we're both walkers, right? We just take that first step. We just take that first step every time. Yeah. And you just never know where that leads. And even sometimes when I'm on a walk in the morning and I'll just start talking to somebody, because dog walkers are the most friendliest people in the world.
Yes.
You know? So we just talk to somebody and you just never know where that conversation's going. And the same kind of principle, I follow that in all areas of my life now. Those breadcrumbs, as you quite rightly put them. Mm-hmm. And what a gift.
It has been one of the greatest gifts that I've received. I am a highly analytical, logical thinker, planner, and that is some of what I bring to working with my clients. So it's part of my gift. Yeah. But when I try to apply it to my own self, I've created so much resistance and uncomfortableness internally in my own life by trying to figure it out and I say figure it out. In the early days, I was saying, figure it out. I actually, when I hear myself say I'm trying to figure it out now, that's actually a red flag for me in the way that I operate now, because I'm getting too much in my head about having to figure out the how. And I am much more open to letting it unfold, and incredible things happen. It's like I have so many examples in my life of just being open, and a conversation or a tag in a social post leading to like something I never could have planned, far beyond anything I would have expected. So it becomes evidence. It's over and over and over. I'm like, okay, I just have to trust this process, and it unfolds as it will.
No, and it's exciting, right? It becomes really, really fun and exciting once you just start trusting. And do you keep a log of these? Because I started doing that a while back, and it was so lovely just to look back and go, oh, the little things, the little meetups.
Yeah, I did for a while, and I've stopped. And I was recently telling someone a story about a wild thing that happened, and they're like, you should write these down, this could be your next book. And I was like, I'm not writing them down. Like it's almost like they happen so frequently and so naturally that I don't think of them as a big deal anymore. I haven't written them, but I am going to start writing them down, especially since you just mentioned it again.
Yeah, I had the same experience, but it's just such a joy looking back, Mm-hmm. And often I think it's nice for those moments that you do need evidence, because we still have it. Right. I'm years in, and I still have those moments where you just go, oh, just remind me again. I just need a little bit of a nudge today.
Yes.
So looking back on that first conversation that you had with your very first client, which was such a gift, right? It's a universal gift, which was of which you've had many. I love the fact that not only did you have that they actually became clients, and they trusted you. They were meant to be your first clients. Yes. Like, you have to start with somebody. Why not me? I love the fact that they said that, but also that you had that download, which was again really powerful. That it's not about you. It's all about them. It's all about service. It's all about helping, and that is a really powerful download for anybody that's just starting their own business, whether they're leaving corporate or just starting. Because Absolutely. You're so right, we can get caught up in our own nonsense. You know, what if that we're not good enough? What if we fail? What if, you know, they find us out? All this stuff, you know? And actually, it's just about serving. It's just about supporting them. That's what they're there for. They're not here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something I talk about in the book. So I address that very topic. And then I also relate it to how you feel about marketing. So a lot of people get hung up on the idea of marketing or selling themselves because they feel like they are forcing their service or offering on someone. It might be based on a past experience they've had and how someone has sold to them, or a belief about what it means to sell. It means that it's a very outward pushing type of thing. And instead, if you shift your mindset to be of serving, so how am I helping? By sharing this content, I'm helping someone who has this challenge and I'm drawing them to me. It can feel softer and more accessible for people to think about putting themselves out there.
Yeah. Marketing your business, though, it can feel really hard, can't it? Certainly in the early days. You're right, we do get caught up in our own stuff, but also, I think, again, just that fear of being visible. I see that an awful lot with my audience, that fear of being visible, that fear of putting yourself out there. You don't want to be annoying, you don't want to be spamming people. We feel as though you've told them once, everybody should know.
Yes, right. And then you go quiet. I address that exact same thing. And it's natural to feel like that because a lot of jobs as an employee, you've been very behind the scenes. You may not have had to be visible. So it's almost like you've gotten away with it. I certainly had this experience where I've always been the marketer behind someone else who I'm creating the impact for them. So when it switched to me having to be the face and voice of my business, it felt really, really uncomfortable. And I avoided it for a very long time. And I avoided doing things like video and communicating in that way because it felt really, really uncomfortable. And I finally got to the point where I realized I could not continue to grow if I was hiding. And I put myself into a 30-day video challenge that pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And I had to go live every day on a platform. And I looked like a deer in the headlights in the first few videos, and I was terrified, and I would think of exactly what I was going to say, and I'd have little notes around my screen, and I would be so worried about how I was going to look and everything. And the more I did it, like it's just something you have to do to practice. The more I did it, the more comfortable I became. And by the end of the 30 days, I was going live with no makeup on and just sort of talking off the cuff about a subject. And I never would have gotten to that place if I didn't put myself in the place where I embraced the suck of doing the thing that I wasn't good at. And there's so many things as a new business owner you're not going to know how to do. You're going to learn a lot. And if you're used to just being good at things, or if you get frustrated with yourself when you're not good at something right away, which I have had that pattern in the past, you have to just open yourself up and just be lighter with yourself. I think that's one of the things that I wish I knew earlier. I was so hard on myself all the time that if you just lighten up on yourself a little bit and let it be what it is, you're going to continue to grow and expand in the ways that you're meant to.
Yeah, give yourself some grace. I'm so pleased that you said that. It's something that so many of us need to hear, right? Just go easy on ourselves, give ourselves some grace, because you're right, in those early days, and as I'm speaking, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
No, I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that, as you said, in those early days, it's the same today. There are things that come up. This is not an experience where you like, oh, I've learned it, I figured it out, and not to go. We're always continuing to grow at whatever point you're at in the development of your business and the evolution of yourself, because I believe that you need to be growing and evolving and thriving to build a business that grows and thrives as well. So it is never an end.
Never
Something is always just when you think you've got it sorted.
Right.
It's like raising children that you think you've figured out the stage and then you go on to the next one. It's the same with your business, and things will come up to continue to challenge you, which is good, because then you have an opportunity for the contrast to grow into the next level, or figure out the next thing, or become the next version of yourself. And that's exciting.
How wonderful that is, isn't it? that we're creating this amazing container for ourselves that we can continue to expand, we can continue to evolve and elevate, and just become that and step into that next version. It's so good, isn't it? And you're right, I'm 12 years in, and I still have learning experiences every single day, and I wouldn't want it any other way, not any other way.
Yes.
So going back to your visibility, I want to kind of unpick that, because I know that's so important for so many of my my audience, that I think that, again, it's so powerful that you stepped into and just embraced it. The fact that you didn't know, it wasn't so much that you didn't know how to do it, was that it was uncomfortable for you to do video, as it is for so many people.
Yes.
I know I went through that too. I also did a 13-day challenge, but mine was when I was started, it wasn't so much lives. We didn't have those. I'm showing my age now. Lives wasn't a thing. So it was like I did a blogging challenge, and just hitting publish. Oh my word, Laura, just going on and trying to hit publish on something, even though I knew that it was, I knew deep down inside it was good enough and what I had to say was relevant. Just hitting the publish button was so difficult. So you did a 30-day live, and confidence grows as a result of that, doesn't it? So often we wait for confidence to rain down on us and wait for it to receive confidence to do something, but confidence doesn't work that way. It comes as a result of doing things, doesn't it? There's one of my favorite quotes is, confidence is a memory of action. And that's so true, isn't it? We have to do the thing in order to grow confidence. It doesn't actually come first. And often we confuse confidence and bravery. We have to be brave, and then confidence will come. So I really love the fact that you did that and that you embraced it. How did you convince yourself to do that? Because that's it's kind of climbing over a fence, isn't it? It's like, oh, I've got to do it. I've got to just take that leap. Is there anything that worked for you?
Yeah. So part of it was that I was a part of this group coaching community at that time. So I was doing it with a group of people, and that made a big difference because I felt like I wasn't the only one. And we had a little WhatsApp group, and you could post when you did your video, and people were supporting each other and cheering each other on and watching each other's videos and liking them. So that sense of community is really important, because it can be easy to feel alone as a business owner. It can also feel easy to become stagnant if you don't have people who are also growing and wanting to support you. And having like-minded people is something that I always suggest focusing on at the beginning, because as much as your friends and family are well-meaning when you're starting out, if they haven't owned a business before or been through this experience, they're not going to be able to offer you the advice that is meaningful and is going to be helpful. And so finding your community is really important. And I think that is what supported me through that challenge. And also, the other thing I want to mention about that challenge, when you talk about the confidence building, it's true that the confidence built through doing it, but the unexpected thing that I also experienced as a result of it was that I learned that I actually like doing video.
Amazing.
The thing that I had avoided for years and shied away from, I was like, oh, this is easier than sitting and writing a blog post. I am comfortable expressing myself in this way now. And I now use video, like I use Loom. I share videos with clients all the time. I use it in my business in many different ways when it's the thing that I avoided for years. And now I gave myself the opportunity to understand that it's actually something I can use quite powerfully.
Amazing. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny?
I'm like, oh my gosh, I hated this forever. And the other little trick that I would share with listeners is that I used to get so self-conscious of seeing myself on the camera. I'd be looking at like the way my face looks, or my teeth, or my da. And when I started just visualizing in my mind the person that was listening and thinking of the one person I was talking to in the video, not, oh my gosh, this is going to go on my LinkedIn profile and everyone's going to see it, and what are people going to say, I'm just thinking of the one person that needs to hear what I am sharing right now. That takes the focus off of me and puts the focus onto a person. So when I'm looking at the lens of the camera, I'm actually picturing myself looking at that one person.
I love
Huge, huge difference for me
so
in doing that. So it's a little trick that I'd suggest listeners try.
because you're so right. Somebody somewhere needs to hear what you've got to say, you know.
Right.
And I've lost count of the number of times that I've been scrolling, as we all do, you know, mindlessly scrolling every day, and you stop and you hear something or you see something and go, this was meant for me today. I needed to hear that. And I'm always so grateful of that person, just like you, or, you know, one person that started their business and goes, I'm going to be brave today, I'm going to post that.
Right.
I'm going to press publish on that post
100%.
because it spoke to me. It made a difference to me. And this is the thing, isn't it? It's actually a disservice if we're not visible.
Right.
Disservice to the people that we can hide. I often think it's like going to the store, right? And you need bread or milk or whatever it is that you want to buy. And they go, no, we're not selling that to you today.
Right.
No, we're not selling it. We've taken it out of the window. And you think, actually, you've got it. Give it to me. And that's what we've got to realize. We've got the ability, we've got the experience, we've got the skills, we've got all of the knowledge. It's our job to support other people. It's our job to pass that on. Yeah. And
I was thinking a lot about that when I was writing my book, because that is the most vulnerable thing that I've ever done, because I'm putting my words on a page, I'm promoting it, I am putting it out there. Like my business colleagues, my friends, my family, people I don't know are reading it. And that is extremely vulnerable. But I kept thinking, it's almost a disservice, as you were saying, if I don't share what I've learned. Like it's almost selfish. I almost felt this sense of like cosmic obligation to share, because I have, at first I was thinking, what do people, what do I have to say? I don't have a multi-million-dollar business, but what I do have is a really successful business on my own terms, successful financially, gives me the time to be with my family, gives me the opportunity to do work that really feels connected to me. And I've created a beautiful life. And so if someone wants to hear how I've done that, and I can share any little bits of wisdom of what I've learned through my own experiences that would save somebody else some of the time or the tears or the energy in creating a beautiful life for themselves, like, why wouldn't I share that? And there will be people, I'm not going to be for everyone. The words are not going to be for everyone. There are going to be negative reviews. There are going to be people that don't like it. And that's okay, because the people that need to hear it, I'm already getting the most incredible messages from people as they're reading it, saying, you have no idea how divinely timed this book was. It's exactly what I needed right now. Sending me lines from the book, sending me little snippets. It's incredible. So what I would have thought even would have been a very simple piece of advice, someone's like, that was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And that's so gratifying.
Oh, and I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. I said to you before we started recording that the more people that share mindsets, information, the better, because the world needs to hear it, so I'm so excited that you've written the book. I'm so excited that you're getting these reviews, and I want to explore the fact that you felt vulnerable, right, in having people read the book. I can relate. I remember that being on that
very
journey, that fear of, I remember the first time my book got bought, and I said to my husband, how do I get it back? How do I from them? And it was almost a letting go. I have to let this book go. And it can feel so nerve-wracking, but people need to hear it. It's your gift. It's your gift to the world. And sometimes the simplest of things that we think everybody knows, they don't. People still need to hear this stuff. And so I'm really, really grateful.
Yeah. And for me, it was like layers of vulnerability. So I started by letting my husband and my best friend read it. And then I went to a circle of my mastermind. And then I went to a circle of what would be ideal readers. And then I went beyond to people that I don't know. So it's like I let it become, I became more vulnerable. The first time, like as my husband was reading it, I knew he was in the house reading it. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, what's he gonna, it felt so nerve-wracking, and it felt easier with each little layer I went through and every time I let it go. And by the time I actually released the book, I felt very comfortable letting the words out into the world. I still felt, some level of vulnerability, but it felt like I was setting it free. And I just right now feel like it's going to work its way into the hands of the people that need it, and it's going to do its magic. And I've released it to see where it grows and what magic it creates.
Not your job anymore. You've
Yeah,
done
I've done my job. I can continue to promote it, and I can
exactly
do things to help people become aware of it, but it will also come into the hands of people by being sharing. One of the things that I was most excited about when I released it is it hit bestseller in a number of Amazon categories, but it hit bestseller in 2 categories that meant a lot to me. It was the most gifted book in self-employment and women in business at one period during the launch. And I didn't even know that was a category, but it felt like the greatest gift to me because I've always envisioned that it would be a book that will make its way into the hands of the people that need it, and often by somebody giving it to someone else. So that felt really, really rewarding to know that.
Yeah. Oh, what a lovely thing to experience. I didn't even know that was a category.
Yeah, neither did I. I was like, what? Yeah.
I'm going to go and have a look at that category.
Yeah.
What a lovely, I think that's probably the best category.
I know. I said, like, all the rest of the categories, it's kind of gravy, the bestseller, like that's amazing. And I'm very grateful for that. But that just caught me off guard in the best way.
Yeah, the fact that somebody's bought it and gone, I'm going to give this to somebody else. I'm
Yeah.
buying it to somebody else.
Yeah.
I've gone all warm and squeaky.
I know.
It's just really nice. Yeah,
It's
really
nice.
Yeah, so good. Okay, so let's have some takeaways then, Laura. What with everything that you've experienced, you're growing your business, leaving corporate, going on this wonderful mindset journey. If there was 3 tips that you could give to somebody in their business, they might not be starting, but they might just be in it and need to hear what you have to say, what would you reckon? What would they be?
I'd say the first is understanding the power of your beliefs. What you believe to be true is true for you. So I just had this experience this morning with a friend of mine who sent me a note saying that she was inspired to write a children's book that she's always had on the back burner. And seeing me go through the process of writing and releasing my book, she's been inspired to do it. And she said, so I signed up for this course, but writing a children's picture book is the hardest kind of book you can write. And so we went back and forth a little bit, and I just sent her a note right before we came on. And I said, can I suggest you think about your beliefs around this project? So if you go into it believing that writing a children's picture book is the hardest kind of book to write, how do you think your experience is going to be? Versus if you go into it thinking it's going to be fun and easy to write the book I'm meant to write, and it's just going to flow out of me. Starting from that point is the point from which you start with, the belief. So the thoughts you repeatedly think are going to have a direct impact on your experience. The same is true in building your business. The same is true in anything that you take on in your life. So I think understanding the power of your beliefs is really, really important and can be one of the most impactful things that you do. So that would be one. The second is, I think, being your authentic self, that you need to create a business that is the business you're meant to build, not necessarily what the latest trend is and the type of business model or what's hot or anything. You need to know yourself and what lights you up and how you can best serve and what you need to thrive. So building a business around who you really are is critical. And I think that really dramatically impacts the way that you are able to be successful. And the third, I would say getting comfortable with playing the role of cheerleader and drill sergeant for yourself in your business. We've talked a lot about beliefs, but there's also the action you need to take, and you need to build a discipline around continually doing things to build your business and move things forward. There's nobody telling you what to do anymore. It all is coming from you. So you need to keep yourself on track and find ways to do that support you and also cheer yourself along the way. So getting comfortable playing both of those roles for yourself, I think is important.
Amazing. Pure gold there. Well done. Off the top
I didn't even know it was going to come out. That was good. Let's see what comes out.
Amazing. It was definitely a download there. People needed to hear that. Amazing. Nice. So the very last question that I ask everybody is, have you got a book that you'd like to recommend? Now, if you don't recommend your own book here, Laura,
okay, so I'll go with two. I'll go with someone else's, and then I'll tell you about mine.
You don't have to. Yeah, I know we spoke about other people's books, but you are more than welcome to recommend your own if you want to.
Thank you. So, given what we talked about earlier about focusing on what your client needs versus yourself, one book that I always recommend is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. It is about positioning yourself as the guide for someone and helping them get to where they want to go. And I think it's a really good book in helping you support the development of your messaging for your business. So that's a book I'd always recommend.
It's an amazing book as well.
Yes. And there's lots of resources that go on with it. It's a really phenomenal book. So that's one I would recommend. And then my own book is called Good to Grow, Cultivate Your Mindset and Habits to Thrive as an Entrepreneur. And in the book, I take you through my own story, some of which we've talked about today. And then I've broken the book into 3 parts, and it includes the first part is about helping you get clear about who you are. And like we talked about, understanding what lights you up, what's your values, how you want to build a business, and your own self-image. We didn't even get into that. That's a huge piece of it. The shift in self-image. Yeah, that's a whole conversation. Developing the self-image of someone who is the business owner. And then we talk about habits for effectively managing yourself and your business, and habits for thriving. So at the end of each chapter, there's a little blank page for you to collect your thoughts. It's very practical and actionable. So I ask a lot of questions and things for you to reflect on. And then I also have brought in the views of 30 other women that I interviewed and have brought in nuggets of wisdom from them in these little entrepreneurial insights. And I reference a whole library of books because I'm a huge reader. So I've brought in concepts. So it's packed. There's lots in it, but it is meant to be, I say it's a pocket mentor. I wanted it to feel conversational, and that's the feedback I'm getting, is it's an easy read. It feels like somebody who's been through the journey and is sharing what they've learned. And that's one of the greatest compliments I can get, is that it does feel like that when people are reading it. So you can buy it on Amazon in any market that you're in. It's on Amazon and available in paperback and Kindle.
Fantastic. We will put all of the links in the show notes so you can go grab a copy of Laura's book. Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome to come back if you want to talk about the aspects of your book that we didn't actually touch on.
For sure.
But where can people find you?
So if you're interested in the book, you can go to www.goodtogrowbook.ca, or my business website is goodtogrowmarketing.ca. Amazing. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. All the places. And included in the show notes, we'll put links for that. And as well, I also am offering a free chapter if you want to download a chapter of the book and see if it is something you're interested in. I'm welcoming you to do that as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And go follow Laura, get a copy of a free chapter and get a copy of the book. And thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. This was such a great way to start the day.